Welcome to the World Awaits.
Travel tales to inspire your wanderlust. Welcome back to the World Awaits. How are you all?
Hi everyone, how's your week been, Belle?
I'm knackered. I'm packing my bags for North Africa because on Saturday I will be in Tunisia. Super exciting. I can't tell you much now, but we're definitely going to have a...
Can I just say, sorry,
Yep.
but can I just say, you're packing your bags, really? Are you just thinking about it or are you actually doing it? Because I know that you leave packing your bags until very late.
Right, but you see, the week or so before, I am doing all my washing and I'm pulling stuff out. And then I just have this giant mountain because the secret to packing is you chuck everything in and then you go through it and you chuck half of it back out. And the trick is to not chuck a quarter of it then back in. So technically I'm packing.
Organized chaos.
Yeah. No, it works for me. So everything will be clean and everything will be piled. It just has to be zipped up and tick, put into its place. Well, I'm not going to be able to tell you much about Tunisia at the moment. I'm going to save that until we have our little chat, or quite a long chat actually, about this place in a few weeks' time. Fascinating though. So excited I'm about to explain. But apart from that, I had an amazing tour this week. I went from the domes to the catacombs of the State Library in Victoria with the Australian Society of Travel Writers. And I'm so sorry you couldn't be there, Kirsty. Oh, we missed you.
Yes, I know, I missed it.
Yeah, but it was a small group of us, and we were guided through some of the back rooms and the levels, because there are so many levels of the library. It was absolutely fascinating. While we were in there, we went to the World of the Book exhibition. Did you know that in their rare book holdings, it includes a cuneiform tablet from 2050 BC, which shows some of the earliest writing scripts developed by the ancient culture of Sumer, which is in the around about where modern day Iraq is. So as Anna Welch, so there's this incredible little tablet of one of the first forms of writing. And as Anna Welsh, who is a rare books librarian in the State Library, showing us around, she said, "I'd like to think it's a fragment of beautiful poetry, but it's a tax receipt." And I made death and taxes. Death and taxes, they are the only certainties in life. So that's been my week, Kirsty. What's yours?
No, but it was a shame that I missed that because as I am an absolute bookworm. But yeah, sad to miss it, but I can't wait for our chat later on when you come back. And I have a little bit of news. I've taken on a new role as editor luxury for Carry On. So we're Australia's leading publication aimed primarily at travel agents, but also read by lots of travellers. And because it's just very well respected by anyone who wants to keep abreast of the leading travel news. So our listeners are all avid travellers. So jump on over to carryon.com.au with a K, carry on with a K. And if you go to the luxury tab, then you'll get a little pop-up and you can sign up to the e-newsletter that goes out every week and you can keep on top of all the latest travel news.
And who doesn't want to hear about all of the incredible luxury properties opening around the world? And all the other news and interviews you do with key people in the travel industry, because it's so good to find out where the pros are going. This week, we are taking a turn for the spiritual. So the experts at online platform Psychic World have come up with the spiritual destinations sparking the most interest.
Yeah, so they actually commissioned the study and they say that there's been a growing number of travellers seeking experiences that deepen their connection to faith, heritage and history. And we know that from working in the industry that it's just increasingly people are fascinated and want to do things and travel with more purpose. So this is another arm of that, right? The most searched spiritual destination was actually Kyoto, which was often cited as the spiritual heart of Japan. And there were more than 7.1 million annual searches globally. So the city is the center of Zen Buddhism and it's home to more than 2,000 temples and shrines. And some of them are hundreds of years old. And they connect the traveller with some of the most ancient spiritual practices.
Second on the list was France's Mont Saint Michel, which is that gorgeous island off the coast of the mainland. This island has been a pilgrimage site for nearly a millennia, drawing visitors seeking solace, protection and healing. And it's surrounded by bay waters, so it's severed from the mainland during high tide, which absolutely adds to its mystique. And it's absolutely fascinating. When I was nearly stuck here once, I went on a day tour because you've got to get off the island before the tide rises. Otherwise, you're stranded, which is not such a mythical experience.
Who doesn't want to be stranded on an island in France?
That's why I was thinking, why are we stressing about rushing back? But anyway, it's absolutely beautiful. And third on the list of spiritual searches was Rishikesh in India, which totally makes sense to me. This is known as the world's yoga capital. It's ranked third with more than 6.3 million annual searches globally. And the city is in the uplands of the Himalayan mountains, which is a destination that pulls visitors in with its rich history, the yoga, the meditation centers, and of course, the sacred Ganges River.
And it also became internationally famous when the Beatles went there to find enlightenment back in 1968 and wrote most of their White Album there. Fourth on the list is Vatican City, considered among the most sacred places in Christianity and home to the largest religious building in the world, which everyone would have heard of, St. Peter's Basilica. And I was there last year, and I have to say, besides the throng of tourists that were there when which takes a little bit away from the spirituality, but I did, obviously you can feel something there. It's pretty remarkable. And I possibly would have thought it might have even ranked a bit higher, but anyway, there you go.
Yeah, absolutely. And rounding out the top 5 is Montserrat near Barcelona in Spain, which has a wooden statue of the Madonna and Child said to have been carved by St. Luke, who wrote one of the Gospels in the New Testament. Biblical legends stem from this location, and the mountain was actually a sacred site even in Roman times, and European pilgrims and tourists have been going here for centuries. So I've got to say, I'm surprised Egypt didn't make it into the top 10. Huge numbers of travelers go there to tap into the energy of the Giza pyramids. And the whole point of that is ensuring an afterlife following your death in this world. So there are always people meditating and doing spiritual tours there and debating the real reason that the pyramids were actually built.
A few others of note are Angkor Wat in Cambodia, which came in number 7 and is one of the most important archaeological sites in Southeast Asia. My God, can't wait to go there. I'm going in July. You will hear all about that. And at number 8, Kathmandu, which is the gateway to the Himalayas and home to many Buddhist monasteries. Those two, I think, really deserve a solid mention. And also, can I drop in Cape Reinga in New Zealand, which actually ranked at number 34. But this is such an incredibly spiritual place. Like, you actually definitely feel it when you're there. And you're likely to be one of just a few people there because it is right at the tip of New Zealand's North Island, the middle of nowhere. And it's a super long drive. It's really tough to get there. But it's here that Maori say that after death, all Maori's spirits travel up the coast over the Pahutakawa trees to this headland, and it's the departing place of the spirits. And when you stand there, it just feels quite remarkable. It's hard to explain. You really are, if you are going to New Zealand's north, make the trip up there.
That sounds incredible. Look, I've got to say, if you've got a New Zealand one in there, I have to put an Aussie one in. And I have to say, one of the most spiritual places I visited in Australia, apart from Uluru, which came in at number 9, is way up in the Kimberley on the northern West Australian coastline. A few years ago, I was writing about Kimberley Coastal Camp, which is a fishing camp so remote that you have to chopper in or take a float plane. And the owner at the time, Rocky Terry, took me out on a boat to some of the sea caves on that coastline where we discovered the most incredible religious art that is hidden there. It's so old that it can't be carbon dated. So estimates put the art at about 40,000 years old. And it was like a cathedral. It's really at the opposite end of the scale for these global searches because you can't just jump on a flight there. And as Rocky said at the time, it was difficult to reach because you had to earn the right to be there. It was a journey to be there. And it just demonstrates how ancient and beautiful Australia's spiritual history is. This week, I'm chatting to Dennis Bunnik, co-owner of the long-running Bunnik Tours, which just celebrated 30 years in the business. But he's either on a flight, packing for a flight, or getting over jet lag from a recent flight, and reviews airlines around the world as a side hobby apart from running the family travel company. So tune in to hear his takeaways from life in the clouds. Dennis, welcome to the World Awake. It's so great to have you on the podcast.
Really good to be here. Thanks, Belle.
This is a really big time for you and for your company as well, because Bunnik's has just turned 30 years in the business, which is pretty impressive, right? Tell us a bit about it.
Yeah, it's been a massive ride. I think 30 years ago, we opened the doors to what was Marion Bunnik Travel. Mum always had the dream. She'd always been in the industry to open her own travel agency. I'd just returned from London where I'd been living for 4 years. And I said, let me join you. I'll give you a hand. And 30 years later, I've got over 100 staff, and now we've transformed from a travel agency to a tour operator, and we're selling our tours all over Australia and sending people all over the world.
It's a real family business, though. You've got your brother involved as well. Sasha is part of the team too, isn't he?
Yeah,
And
he joined us as our first office junior when he finished his internship at Singapore Airlines a couple of months after we started, and the two of us are now joint CEO. He's more in the background, but 90% of all of the staff report to him. Him and his team do all of the work. I tend to be more the public face because I do the media bits and pieces and external partnerships and finance and stuff. And then Mum's retired from day to day, but still is actively involved in the travel part of it in terms of she still escorts some tours, does quality control and searches for new destinations. So she's never going to stop traveling.
I got that feeling actually that as I couldn't imagine that she would be retiring and sitting at home tending to her garden. There is a competition, in fact, between the family, isn't it, on how many countries you visited, and a little bit too almost the extreme situation in which you found yourselves, because you're a pretty adventurous mob, aren't you?
Well, passion is a travel. It's what we do. It's who we are. It's more than what we do. It's who we are. Yes, there was a competition when we were younger. We'd sit around the dinner table and try and name the most capitals of countries around the world. And we were only young teenagers and stuff at that stage. That transformed into a competition who could get to the 100 countries the fastest. I am the loser in that one. I will reach it this year. But Mum's up to 117 or 18 or something, and Sasha's close to 110.
Phenomenal.
Yeah, I'm a little bit behind on that one.
So what is your 100th country going to be? I have to ask.
I'm hoping that it'll be Iceland, but I need to get another 2 before then. I've got 1 locked in, I think, but I need to find another way to cross a border somewhere so that
And where's that border?
Iceland can be 100. I'm hoping to go. Belize is pretty much locked in. I don't know. I was going to go to Northern Ireland earlier this year with my brother, and this is where the rivalry comes in. The weather wasn't good, and we were needing to drive up from Dublin. He goes, "Oh no, we don't want to be driving in this snow and everything." So he stopped me from going to Northern Ireland. So I may have to. I don't know yet. I've got lots of trips this year. But we'll see if I can find a border and cross over. I'll want to get to Iceland being 100. And that's actually quite nice in significance that it's been on my bucket list since probably 93 when I first started looking at Iceland, and I've never made it. So I'm joining one of our tours there this year in August.
Oh, sensational. It sounds like a dream, really, doesn't it? So we've got the country you're going to next. What is the last country you were at? Because a lot of your travels, you travel a phenomenal amount. And so if you say, yeah, I've just ticked 100 countries, of course, some of them you've been back to
many times.
Many times. Yeah. So what's the last country you were there?
The last big lot of new countries, the last tour that I was on was I escorted our very first departure of the 5 Stands tour. Turkmenistan, Uzbekistan, Tajikistan, Kyrgyzstan, and ending in Kazakhstan. Absolutely phenomenal. I hadn't been to that part of the world before. So beautiful. It's on the tourist trail now, but still very much offered in that it's undeveloped in lots of ways. You're seeing the culture as it's always been there. And the contrast between the deserts and the Silk Road cities of Uzbekistan and then the mountains of Tajikistan and Kyrgyzstan is just stunning. And that contrast is amazing.
And also the random weirdness of Turkmenistan. What a bizarre country. Like just the Ashgabat being that city of marble and nobody on, I don't know, when I was there a few years ago, there was nobody on the streets. It was just these 8-lane highways going through the middle of the city and not a single person on there. I saw 1 car driving down the street and it was...
It's weird, isn't it? It's
very
like being in a movie set. Like you're in some sort of movie set, but then you get out of the city and it's like you've gone into the behind the scenes, the backlot, because it becomes very poor very quickly. And Azerbaijan's a little bit like that as well. Baku has got this fantastic architecture, ego pieces and monuments to current and past presidents and stuff, and this incredible modern stuff. But then you leave Baku and you leave Ashgabat, and it becomes very poor very quickly and quite desolate in parts. So fascinating countries, both of them. Turkmenistan, Even the neighboring countries refer to it as the North Korea of Central Asia.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the movie, if you were filming that movie in Ashgabat, it'd become like a zombie apocalypse end of days movie where you're the last person surviving and you're walking through going, where is everybody? It is a very strange part of the world. Do you think that's where, because now it's been your 30th anniversary, you guys have had a bit of a reflection about where people are traveling, where they should be traveling to, because sometimes do different things. So where do you see the stands as being the next big place to be?
It will continue to grow. It's the same with Georgia, Armenia, Azerbaijan. There was Joanna Lumley did this series on the Silk Road, and it absolutely took off pre-COVID, and it's coming back strongly. I don't know if there's one big hot destination that's coming up. I think Japan obviously has really caught the imagination of Australian travellers in the last few years. So there's been a lot of demand for that. But Australians travel further and longer than anybody else. We're adventurous lot, and we want to see the world. We're so far away, we want to get out there and experience it. So we're really seeing that people are traveling everywhere. You know, Italy and Spain, Portugal, Morocco, Scandinavia, all of those destinations that have been attracting people for a long time are still really popular. Places like the Middle East will go up and down depending on what's happening, perceptions and stuff. But you can't get away from the fact that there is nothing like standing in front of the pyramids or walking through Karnak Temple. You can't do that anywhere else, or standing in front of Tutankhamun's death mask or at Abu Simbel in front of that massive temple. That captures the imagination, and suddenly we'll have a massive amount of people wanting to go to Egypt.
And you've actually spent an inordinate amount of time there. I think you were telling me you'd been there 33 times or something like that. Some enormous amount.
Yeah, quite a few times in Cairo, but luckily been to up and down the Nile quite a few times now as well. It's it's an amazing country.
Yeah, and it will keep evolving as well as they keep discovering more things outside those areas.
Yes.
Do you know, like we're talking about you as in your tour life and tying with the company, but you have an alter ego, which is your YouTube, which is phenomenally successful. And that taps into your obsession with aviation, which very nicely being a traveler, you can't always be sitting on a cruise ship for your whole life trying to get to the places that you want to get to. So let's have a little chat about that, because I love some of the things that you cover, things like the questions I always wanted to know, like where do airline blankets go? But like you really dig into the detail of aviation and get some incredible access to the back scenes. What's been your absolute highlight in terms of that sort of back scene access in the aviation world?
Yeah, I've been really lucky in that respect. It started off as a little side hobby to do flight reviews for business travelers and for travel agents to use it as training tools and selling tools. And it just took off from there. I was lucky enough to, as you mentioned, with Qatar Airways, I got to film behind the scenes what happens when we arrive at an airport and we all disembark. Now, we know that the aircraft gets prepared for its next flight. We go to our hotels, our next flights or home. But what actually happens on that aircraft? I was lucky enough that they let me on with a camera and I got to see it, warts and all. So all the passengers left. I walked on with the cleaning crew and I watched them break down an aircraft that had just had a 14-hour flight from Seattle into Doha and was being prepared for another 14-hour flight onto Adelaide. So saw how they cleaned, how they stripped the entire aircraft down, cabin down, and then built it back up again. So got everything ready for the onward flight. And then I followed the trucks. When the new crew came on board to do the final preps for the flight to Adelaide, I then went to the catering department and we didn't look at the kitchens, but what we looked at is, okay, who does the dishes? Right? What happens to all of those trays and the trolleys and all the dishes? What happens to the blankets and the pillows and stuff? And I got, over the next 3-4 hours, I got to see it all. Literally from the moment the trucks are unloaded and they sort the dishes out, right? And they sort out everything out. The blankets go one way, the perishables go another way. And then I got to see how everything gets sorted. Now, I could tell you that the glasses of a trolley will come off a flight. It'll be unpacked. It'll go through the dishwasher. As it comes out the dishwasher, those elements, the glasses and the crockery, cutlery, etc., are packed straight into trolleys and are designated for another flight. The operational efficiency is incredible. You've got blankets being put through this massive long machine, which cleans them at 175 blankets at a time. They go in one end, they come out, clean and dry out the other end, right? The 30-meter long machine. And then they're fed into a folding and wrapping machine. That's your economy class blankets. When the business class blankets on Qatar come out, it takes 4 people to prepare each blanket. 2 people fold it up, one feeds it into the folding machine, the wrapping machine, and another person wraps it and puts it in a bag. And then it goes onto the aircraft for another flight. It's phenomenal. The whole process was incredible. That was really good. Obviously, I've got to see some of the behind the scenes engineering. I now know how to change a wheel on a 737.
Yeah.
It's very handy. And I know how to check the brakes. If ever they need me to check the brakes on an aircraft, I can do that. They wouldn't let me touch anything, obviously, but I'm not qualified. And the whole purpose was to try and shine a little bit of light onto the incredible people working behind the scenes that make this magic of aviation happen. You know, we all see what it's like inside the cabin, what it's like to fly, and you get that excitement of going to the airport and getting on board your flight and flying. But what about the people that actually make that happen, that work at the airport? And it's been I'm very grateful for that experience, because it's something that not anybody could necessarily get to see. And I've been able to do it. And there's more happening. Yes.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah.
We're going to see more. Great.
Yes. Yeah. I've filmed a couple more, and I'm talking to one of the airlines now. What I'd love to do is work out what happens to your suitcases, you know, especially one of those big airports. How do they get the right suitcase onto the right aircraft when you've got millions of flights, millions of pieces of baggage coming in, one side, going out the other side, getting them all on the right flight? And then I'd love to do the crew training where they go down the sliding and end up in a swimming pool. How cool would that be?
That would be so cool. It would be amazing. I think it's such an industry, but the fact that it just never stops and it never sleeps as well. I always find that fascinating when you've been stuck in airports, especially if you're there overnight and you see the movement of the time zones that airport passes through, and how it is, especially if you've had a long layover. And I've got to say, I recently took 3 days to get home from Bulgaria, which I was writing about in the Herald. But it meant that I was spending 6-7 hours in an airport and just watching the zones of it's moving through. I think that's really fascinating. I think obviously there's that, and then also your plane spotting as well, that really catches people when you're just always looking, aren't you, out of your window to watch.
Yeah, of course. There's always something happening in the sky around airports and flights taking off. One of those things around disruption, I got to go into the inner sanctum, the integrated control center of Qatar Airways. This is the one central control room where they control the operations of the entire airline. And it is exactly as you'd imagine it to be on the movies, massive screens and this sort of stuff. Now, as we're recording this, a couple of days ago, there was a fire at Heathrow. And Heathrow was shut for 24 hours. I can tell you that in that room, that would have sprung into action absolutely straight away, because they would have had flights going into Heathrow. They were in the air, some that were due to depart from there and probably couldn't depart. So the disruption to the entire network that an event like that creates for every airline is incredible. And it's these people whose job it is then to sort that out. And you've got planes and crew and passengers in the wrong country. A lot of times, how do you then fix that? How do you get that back to some sort of normality? These are the people that do that. I just love the logistics. I love seeing how things work.
Yeah, absolutely. I was going to ask you about that whole Heathrow thing. And then also in Sydney a couple of weeks ago, when somebody called in sick in air control and the whole airport just like that. In Heathrow's case, it's Europe's busiest airport, and it just stopped. And when Dubai stopped during the floods, the second busiest airport in the world just stops operating, and the knock-on effect across the whole of the world. So with all of this, you've done a phenomenal amount of flights. With all of this, I'm going to do a quick Q&A with you. So if I can get your brutal honesty on this one. Best economy class aircraft in the, sorry, let me try that again. Best economy airline in the skies.
I'd say Emirates, very closely followed by Singapore Airlines and Qatar. And all three of them just do it really well.
And best business class then?
Qatar Q Suite,
Right.
without hesitation. Yeah.
Have you got a runner up for that one?
I think the Emirates A380 business class is really good. The Japanese carriers are really good. I haven't flown them for a little while, but I'm planning to fly ANA in May, so looking forward to that.
Give that a test run. And the best first class, because you've gone beyond you've gone into the inner sanctum.
Yeah, look, there is no such thing as a bad first class, so it is all relative. It is expensive. The best first class meal I have ever had is Air France. Their food is just phenomenal. The first class experience, the shower on Emirates is pretty cool. Right, on the A380, that's an amazing experience, having a shower up at 40,000 feet. And then Singapore Airlines, the A380, they've got a double suite, so you can have a double bed. My wife and I flew from Singapore back to Sydney. That's an amazing experience as well. So there is no bad first class. If you get a chance, you got to splurge one day. That's what you got to do.
Or I can hack my point, right? Just do a whole lot of supermarket shopping. What about best airport? Because everybody says it's Singapore, but then Qatar keeps winning it. Or is there a little hidden secret one that holds a special place in your heart?
They're both really good. I love Adelaide Airport because it is just so convenient. You can get in and out of it so quickly. If I had to choose between Qatar and Singapore, I reckon Qatar just wins it. I think their lounges and stuff and their food and beverage service and everything just works. It's really good.
Which airport lounge do you put gets the big tick from you?
I love the new Al Mujan, the Garden Lounge at Doha. The Qatar lounge there is really nice. First class lounge. I love the one at Dubai with Emirates Concourse A, where you board directly from the aircraft or from the lounge into the aircraft. That's really cool as well.
Fantastic. And what about the lounge for those of us that don't have access to those? Is there a best pay as you go lounge?
Most of the pay-as-you-go lounges have become so crowded that I'm not sure whether I'd actually recommend them anymore. At a place like Singapore, what I would actually recommend is you pay for entry to the swimming pool. I actually did a video on this. They've got a swimming pool. I think it's in the Terminal 1 or Terminal 2. It's up on the roof. You're outside. There's showers. There's a great little bar area there. Doing that and then maybe getting a hotel room for a few hours is going to be better than sitting in what is in essence a crowded lounge.
Absolutely. I've actually stayed in that hotel and it's a little cracker, isn't it? Because especially if you're an avgeek, you're lying in bed and you've literally got a plane arriving at your window and you're like, oh, hello, here we go.
They're good. Those rooms with the windows are good. The rooms, internal rooms where there's no windows, they're a bit, depressing. But you can't.
I think I got lucky, obviously. But you can still get a good sleep on it. Look, the final question, which might tap into that, which is quite a bizarre experience, having a plane literally coming towards you, is what is your most bizarre travel experience?
It would have to be, I flew into Egypt right in the middle of the Arab Spring, just as the revolution was breaking out. We had a lot of groups on the ground there and traveling, and I made a decision within about 20 minutes because the protests were increasing to join one of our groups. I went home, packed, jumped on a flight, and as I was in the air, the revolution broke out. The whole country went into lockdown and the army came onto the streets and they had a curfew and stuff in place. Now, built into their DNA, the Egyptians, because it's the oldest tourist destination in the world, is a great sense of hospitality. So all of the foreign tourists and foreigners that were in Egypt there were very well looked after, but the country went into lockdown, so everybody had to get out. We got all of our clients out. Most went to Jordan to do some more touring, hoping they could come back a week later. We got them all out 2 days before the Australian government evacuation flights arrived. I then started helping other Australian passengers and travellers who were having trouble getting flights booked and stuff like that, helped them out. So I spent 7 days in Egypt, and it was an incredible experience to see a country go from being a bustling tourist destination to that. We got everybody out, and a year later, 6 weeks later, Mum was over there for a few weeks as we restarted our touring program. I went back a year later, and that was really amazing to see how it was all coming back. I went there as a 1-year anniversary, traveled with a whole lot of groups and stuff. That, to me, I don't think I'll ever do anything like that again. Obviously, you don't want to see countries go through revolutions, but to know that in a crisis, our team, both on the ground and here in the office, just worked like clockwork, and we did the right thing by the clients, and everything worked out.
Amazing.
It
What
was
a
really nice to
fantastic
see.
story. What an amazing experience. Dennis, it's been awesome having you on the podcast. We're so pleased that you've been able to join us today. Congratulations again on the 30th anniversary of Bunnik Tours. And
Thank you.
And good luck for the next decade.
That was Dennis Bunnik talking to Belle, and he really is just a genuine aviation geek. For more behind-the-scenes videos of the airline industry, look for Dennis Bunnik Travels on YouTube and visit www.bunniktours.com.au, and we'll put a link to both of those in the show notes. Our tip this week is from our friends at Kitty Luggage, who have analysed more than 100,000 flights across Sydney, Adelaide, Brisbane, Perth and Melbourne airports to help travellers find the best time and day to travel to avoid the stress of delays. Everyone hates a delay, my God.
Yeah, this was really interesting because Sydney comes out on top. The research found that Sydney Airport offers travellers the smoothest travel journey. So flights from Sydney depart 25 minutes early and arrive 24 minutes early on average in the best time slots. This time slot also had the lowest volume of flights, meaning travellers can cruise through security and enjoy overall calmer airport experience.
Yeah, I'm trying getting out of Sydney on a Friday night. It's like my bus trip from Sydney to Melbourne, and it doesn't feel like that. But Melbourne actually was revealed as the worst performing airport for punctuality. So the worst time to fly out, put this in your notes, is between 5 and 9 a.m. on a Saturday from Melbourne, with flights departing on average 33 minutes late.
It's phenomenal. Oh my goodness. I haven't really had that experience, but that 5 to 9 slot a.m. is also the worst time to fly from all the 5 major airports, Sydney, Melbourne, Brisbane, Perth and Adelaide, when you can expect delays of more than 30 minutes from those airports. Because different knock-on as well. As soon as one is delayed coming in from a different destination, everything else gets knocked for the rest of the day.
Yeah, and it makes sense. I guess that's the worst time because everyone's traveling for work. But meanwhile, the best times to fly did vary across all of them. So with Sydney, it was the best time to fly is midday to 3 p.m. And again, this is probably because of that reason. Adelaide, Perth and Melbourne was 3 to 6 p.m. and Brisbane was 6 to 9 p.m. But actually, the research was also conducted over a 30-day period from January to February. Obviously, a lot of us are back at work because it was late January. It is also in the last part of summer. So that might have an impact on it as well.
Like Kitty Luggage co-founder Harry Saunders said that regardless, by reviewing the time you fly, you can make the trip calmer. For instance, choosing to fly between 12 and 3 p.m. where you'll beat the airport rush hours and avoid delays and experience a smoother journey from start to finish. So yay to no delays, I say.
If you'd like to help support our production costs, you can buy us a coffee at coffee.com/theworldawaits. That's ko-fi.com/theworldawaits, so we can continue to bring you inspirational travel interviews with the world's best.
Next week, I'm talking to, drumroll please, Kirsty about her trip to the Cocos-Keeling Islands, which is an atoll almost halfway between Australia and Sri Lanka. And incredibly, the airport runway doubles as a golf course, so infrequent are the flights. So we'll chat about how to get there, what there is to do when you get there, and why it should be on the top of your bucket list.
And please give us a rating and a review on Apple Podcasts. Click on our profile, scroll down to the bottom to ratings and reviews. And if you're on Spotify, go to our main page and click the 3 dots underneath our photo. Or simply just drop us a line. We love to hear from our listeners, and you can contact us at hello@theworldawaits.au.
That's a wrap for The World Awaits this week. Click to subscribe anywhere you listen to your favourite pods.
Thanks for listening. See you next week.